From Central Indiana's #1 news source, this is Fox 59 Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 59 Tonight. I'm Cameron Riddle. Thanks for downloading our smart TV app, Fox 59 Now. It's on Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku, and on Samsung. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of the conversations that we have every night at 8 o'clock here on Fox 59 Tonight. Well, it is now official. It has been announced that Indiana will host a session to redistrict the maps, our congressional maps. This time around, everybody's being very clear about why this is happening, and that is to give more Republican seats to the Republican Party, more power for the President of the United States, as some blue states say, hey, we're going to redistrict to give more Democrats. Red states like Indiana have been getting calls and visits from Washington, D.C., encouraging states like Indiana to redistrict to give the Republican Party additional seats as well so that they don't lose control of the House or the Senate as we approach the 2026 midterms. Now, as this day approaches, November 3rd will be the day that Mike Braun, the governor of Indiana, has called our legislators back to the State House. We talked about this on this show several times. Early on, we talked about the possibility of this happening, and I said that I thought it was a very strong possibility that we would redistrict, and the redistricting effort would include wiping out our congressman here in Central Indiana, Andre Carson, and in Northwest Indiana, Frank Mervan, to give the Republicans 9 districts, 9 seats for the Republican Party. I like to bring on some very smart people to this show. And there's not often that I walk away like saying, dang, maybe I was wrong about that one. Because these two ladies who are back with us in studio and virtually, Whitley Yates, our Republican, what did you say, our conservative cousin. And our fantastic community leader representing the east side of Indianapolis on the other side of the aisle, Samantha Douglas. Both were on the show and they both were like, no, Kim, it's not going to go that far. They're not going to do that. They're going to maybe do District 5, get him 1 seat. We'll call it good. Well, the talk is exactly what I said it was. And so I'm not trying to say that I was right, but
you're not right yet.
But I'm right.
There is technically. He did say they would call the session.
Session.
He did call the special session, but we have not redistricted yet.
Not yet.
Right.
And so that is the other part. So the fact that we even have a special session has been a point of contention, that the vice president had to come here twice to get the governor to even schedule said session. Now it's been scheduled. And so it's kind of out of the governor's hands really now at this point. It's up to our state legislators. So Whitley, break it down for us. What happens starting Monday, November 3rd?
So as you know, Cameron was right. We are getting a special session. And so Governor Braun has called a special session, and that special session is set to commence on November the 3rd. Now, there are some very strict rules in the Indiana Constitution when it comes to how these special sessions are able to function. While we don't know when the legislators will officially meet, we know that this special session can only last 30 session days or 40 calendar days, and we know the day that it will commence. So we know when it's going to start. We know when it's going to be over. We don't know when they're going to get together in order to look at the maps and attempt to redistrict. We also don't know which branch of the government is going to start. It traditionally would start in the House and then go to the Senate, but I am not sure if we're going to be relying on precedent when it comes to this case. And I think it's very interesting that after a very public pressure campaign, when on last Thursday, I believe, it was reported that there weren't enough votes. There was a public campaign, a lot of harassing and bullying of Republican legislators. And then Monday, a lot of the people began switching. A lot of the Republican legislators, after that public bullying and harassing campaign, began to switch into being pro-redistricting. And now we have the special session.
So special session, as you said, starts on Monday, but they don't have to start working necessarily on Monday, right?
They absolutely do not have to start working on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. They could wait this out and begin meeting and discussing the topic later. But they do have a very finite time to come up with either redistrict maps or that they're not going to redistrict or be able to come to some type of an agreement.
So let's talk about how we got here. Let's talk the current temperature and how we got here. Before, early on, everybody was very clear. Hey, we do not need to do this. Indiana has control of all of its offices. We've got 7 of the 9 districts. Like, we're cool. We don't need to do that. And then there started being these visits from the vice president and talk from online and with all the social media things and people saying, hey, we're going to come to Indiana if you don't do this. What did you guys see happen that led at least the governor to say, well, we're at least going to do a special session?
It is literally what Willie was just outlining. It's all of the harassment, the bullying, the threats, right? The threats to our federal funding, the threats to even people's political future. So when you have somebody, especially like Braun, who it very much so feels like this is not the end of the road for him, like he wants to try to keep going. Those kind of things become persuasive. Like I don't know how else to word that. I think I didn't I didn't trust Braun as much as I did, and trust, I'm using that word loosely, as much as I did just like the more traditional Republicans in the state house. Those are the ones that I really leaned on and were looking at when with my initial comments, and the ones that I'm looking at now, honestly. Like at some point we have to draw the line where we're saying this is too much and this is too far. And um that's what's been the most disappointing through this whole thing, is that, I mean, outside of like all of the partisan, like arguing and bickering and all the trolling and things like that, at the end of the day, our constitutions are there for a reason, both the state constitution and our federal constitution. Is We need to make sure that we're upholding the things that are in those. They're there for a reason. They're there to keep order. They're there to keep things as fair and just as possible. And the more that we keep undermining them, the more we are devaluing them, and to the point to where what we don't use it anymore. Like this is out of control. And I think if we don't stop this snowball from rolling and picking up speed and picking up size, then we will never be able to stop this thing. And that's what scares me. It's not just the redistricting, right? Like right now Democrats have 2 of 9 seats.
Mm-hmm.
I said this on the last episode that I was on with you last week. When you look at the data, and I even went and looked at the data from the last 2 primaries, and it's still holding fairly true. We have about 25% of the vote. So right now, the 2 of the 9 is fairly reflective. Um, that to take those 2 away is not giving Hoosiers a better representation. And I completely, it's disgusting that we keep portraying this idea. No, Indiana is red through and through, like, and they deserve to have full red representation. And it's throwing the rest of us away. And more important than that, it's throwing away marginalized voters like Black folks. It is Black people who always end up paying for these kind of decisions. And that's what will happen here too. We cannot do this. We cannot do this to the few seats that we have. But how we got here, I think it's simple. I think they knew what buttons to push on each other, and they pushed them and continue to push them. And now what we're seeing is weakness.
I was trying to pull up, and I think I just finally got it. This is from Twitter. This is Representative Kyle Pierce, who just posted his thoughts on redistricting. And for clarity, for people still trying to understand this, it is our state legislators who get to redraw the maps of what happens at the federal level. So these people aren't necessarily redrawing their own maps. They are redrawing maps that would be affecting people like Andre Carson, Frank Mervan, Victoria Spartz. So Representative Kyle Pierce posted this statement saying that now that we've been called into special session, let me be clear on my stance. I'm voting to redistrict. He's a Republican. To those who say we shouldn't do this, the Virginia Democrats are going to do it. Obama has ads in California to redistrict for more Democrat districts, and few other states will join them. Moreover, across the country, we have seen Democrat majority states gerrymander districts with similar political makeup to Indiana, and those states have no congressional representation from the other party. To my fellow Republicans, let's be clear. The 9-0 map in a bad year could be 6-3 or worse in a 2006-2018 style year where the current election did not bode well for the majority party in Congress. While the current maps are pretty much safe, 7-2 for Republicans. I'd say this is 2026. It is the year to door knock, support, and work to ensure that 9-0 doesn't become 6-3. As I fear, the National Democrat Party has fallen out of touch with our average Hoosiers. It is time to volunteer and support candidates to win these seats. So he's saying a couple of things here. One, that he supports redistricting, but then, Sam, you were just talking about the locals and how people would feel here. And I also heard Andrew Ireland on the radio yesterday. They aren't talking about any of that. They are saying, hey, we are simply combating what other states are doing. So this isn't about essentially, hey, you might love Andre Carson there in central Indiana, but hey, that's too bad. We got to combat what Illinois is doing next door.
But that's what's so infuriating though, because the redraw in California was a response to the Texas redraw.
Mm-hmm.
This was not like stop that. Stop that. And there's more red states. There's way more red states, as a matter of fact, than there are blue states. This doesn't even, no, it's just not true. What they're actually trying to do, which is rare. I want to point this out too. It is rare that a president doesn't lose the control of Congress at the midterm. That almost always happens, as a matter of fact. It almost always happens. And for good reason. Honestly, we need the balance. People don't like to consider these things, but the fact that the pendulum swings like that is helpful to us all. We need the balance. It's a good thing that we swing between something more liberal and something more conservative. Because it's a balance. People end up getting the things that they need in the swinging. The problem right now is that we're trying to have one party who's doing like this total domination BS that is not good for anybody. We see how harmful supermajorities can be in any space, and that goes from locally all the way to the top. They are harmful, and it's most harmful for voters, for the general public. That's who it's most harmful for. And I don't care if it's a supermajority of Democrats or a supermajority of Republicans. It is usually not reflective in general of the people. And so making sure that we have and maintain some kind of balance and representation is so critically important in these spaces. And the fact that we have people even fixing their mouth to say that we should come against that is insane. This is insane.
What do you think, Whitley?
I mean, I disagree that it's insane because it happens every 10 years. So it's not an insane process. I will say
it is midterm.
It is unprecedented to do it midterm, but it doesn't mean that it's illegal. Specifically in Indiana, where the Constitution does allow for Indiana to have a special session. The Constitution under Article 4, Section 9, is what allows him to call this special session. So attempting to cloud this maneuver as it's unconstitutional is factually incorrect when the Constitution allows for this to happen and the laws of the state allow for these types of things to happen. And so when we're looking at the power of the government and what they are allowed to do legally through the Constitution, nothing that's happening in the state of Indiana is unconstitutional, whether we like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. It's not unconstitutional, anything that's happening. And so I think we just really have to look at the impetus of where this is in the greater political culture of the United States right now, where it is solely about winning seats, winning positions and winning power. And if you are in a position where you don't think that you can necessarily win at the ballot box, then what they're doing is they're utilizing the power that states have to redraw and redistrict to then win at the ballot box. Whether or not you like it, it is legal.
We do not have to. No, no, and I'm not giving you that because something is no, because you can find some kind of technical reasoning does
The
not mean that
Constitution is
that we
not
should do it.
technical.
One, that we should do it, and two, that it's right or just to do it. And that's the biggest problem right now. It's the same thing about with Trump claiming that he's going to run for a third term, even though our constitution says that he can't be elected for a third term. It's the same kind of situation. They're trying to find every single loophole that they can to exploit and try to build power for themselves. And and it's wrong. And I don't
Is it
care
wrong
how
when
people
Democrats
want
do it as
to.
well?
Yes, it's wrong. Yes, it's
Okay.
wrong when Democrats do it.
So then
If no,
everyone, so California is wrong, Texas is wrong, New England is wrong, all of those, everyone is wrong, is what you're saying.
what I'm saying is no. California literally, keeping in mind, Texas redrew for 5 seats. Okay, California redrew for 5 seats.
9
It would have been wrong.
seats.
It would have been wrong. It was five.
Okay.
They proposed five. The
It's not
same
it's
five that
not
they
official
redrew.
in California yet, but okay.
We'll see.
So
We'll
you guys are
see.
saying you're kind of saying two different things.
Yeah.
Constitutionally wrong and legally wrong
It's different.
is
Right.
different from morally wrong
Right.
and unethically
Exactly.
wrong.
Right.
And I think
But in their positions, they have to consider it all.
correct. But at the beginning, I think even most of the Republicans, and you can use wrong in this way. Wrong as in dumb, like wrong as in a bad plan because it could backfire. We had several Indiana Republicans like saying, yo, we don't need to do this. Like, we're cool. Like, at the end of the day, nothing in Kyle's statement, nothing that any of us have said how this will work better for Hoosiers. This is all about how this can help the Republican Party on the national stage. And some at the beginning was like, we don't even need to be in this fight. Like at the house, at home, we're good. We're cool.
Yeah.
Leave us out. But that has not really been the option.
And when he called the special session, if you notice, he only called to redraw congressional seats, not state house seats and not state house districts. So that is a very limiting scope on who is going to be impacted. Now that, because before the thought was if you redistrict as they did in 2021, you would be redistricting the state house seats as well. But this is only redistricting the congressional maps, which means it's very limiting. What I think is interesting in Kyle's statement is that he said this could be a 6-3 map. Which means
it could backfire.
It could backfire. And that is very politically dangerous. And I know that it's politically dangerous. I talked about it previously when we were on this show. But the fact that it is now in black and white and you have state Republican legislators saying the maps going around now could be 6-3 where we lose. Who is going to carry that political cross? Because at the end of the day, whether the campaign of Donald Trump and his campaign advisor and all of these political pundits are pressuring Indiana to redistrict its congressional maps. If the legislator redistricts and we go from a 7-2 state to a 6-3 state, who is going to carry that political cross to say you actually gave more seats to the Democrats? And I don't think that any of our Republican legislators want to be the ones that did that. And it would be very detrimental for Braun to go from a 7-2 Republican majority in Congress to a 6-3 after calling the special session.
And so and this is the part I didn't understand about Kyle's statement. I'll show it again. If you're saying, okay, let's redistrict, all the talk that I've heard has really been about doing a 9-0 map, and that's what all the maps are floating out there. So what is he saying? We redistrict, but try to keep it 7-2, like we shore up Victoria Sparks' district? Where is he at?
I think what he's saying is we are playing a dangerous game and there has to be a delicate balance because we don't know the unintended consequences of what will happen if we change these maps. And I think that it is very noble of him to point out the truth of the matter, which is we could be redistricting ourselves out of even more power if we play this game. And so
and that's if Democrats vote. That's the trigger part of it.
Right. And I think it's a very honest take on the situation that we have. And I think more of the Republican legislators, instead of saying 9-0, that's all we have, et cetera, realistically, I think that they're thinking we may lose some of these seats. And now these proclamations of redistricting that a lot of them have placed on their social medias to keep from being attacked and harassed could come back to bite them, and they could be then booted out.
Because the people could say, we asked you not to do this, because lots of people have been saying, do not do this. And if they do it, you could go vote them out.
Right. And the ones that are against redistricting may turn out to inevitably be the heroes. And they could look like, well, I was against redistricting. Now look what happened. This is the reason why I was against it. And they could in turn be the new leaders of the party.
We don't have to keep this as something as short term as just this question, because that's a question that I honestly want to ask of all of our Republican elected officials. What is all of this crap that Trump is doing and that plans to do for his whole term, right? How is that going to impact you politically long term? Because you're turning on your own values to support this human. And what? Like, how is that going to serve you long term? I think that of Braun constantly, but I think that of several others in our state as well. Like, I don't think this serves them well long term. I mean, I won't put I'll stick to the Democrats, but I don't think any of this is going to serve them well long term, because all it looks like is that they have no spine, no backbone, and not just to Democrats. It looks like there's no line that they won't cross. It's like, how far is too far? Because we haven't found it yet.
I think that's a very valid question to ask. And looking at the political costs of what this will do to the state of Indiana, I think that's what a lot of the legislators are doing. You see Greg Good, who represents the Terre Haute-Vigo County area, hosting a listening session where now that has been posted on social media, and the pundits are sending in people to show up to that, to be disruptors, I believe. But you have them going to their constituents and asking what it is that they want. The truth is that the inception of this idea did not begin in the Hoosier state. And so because this was something that was implanted here by the federal government, I think some Republicans and conservatives are like, is this what we should be focusing on right now? And I think that's kind of been the pushback when we have so many other things that need to be focused on. However, the greater fear, and I do believe it is incumbent upon Republicans in office to support the agenda of the Republican president, as when a Democrat is in office, that Democrats support the agenda of the Democratic president. I do believe that that is important when it comes to the way in which you're leading, governing as a party and as a whole. However, with the possibility of what this could do long term, knowing that we're not supposed to redistrict yet for another, decade or so, if this doesn't turn out well, I wouldn't be surprised if another special session is called to redistrict it back. And so if it's a failure, it can be fixed.
All right.
Everything is on our dime.
Exactly.
The running of this entire country comes from our tax dollars. So anything that the government does, whether federally, state, or locally within the municipality, runs on our dime.
But that's what I'm saying. So if it fails, I just want to be clear that the real person, the real people holding the bag, regardless of where this goes, is all of us.
Always in politics.
Always.
Always.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and continue this conversation as Indiana plans to redistrict. We'll talk more about the details of what could happen coming up, as, by the way, the federal government is still shut down, and that is also going to have an impact on people, from everybody who's working to not working and receiving SNAP benefits. More details on what's happening in the world coming up.